It's funny, isn't it? How silence can feel louder than any argument. That morning, I stood by the window of my downtown apartment, coffee in hand, watching the fog roll over the city. Everything about this place, the clean counters, the soft hum of jazz in the background, the faint vanilla scent from a candle, spoke of peace. My peace. Hard-earned, well-guarded peace. My phone buzzed once on the marble counter. Dad. Just seeing his name made my stomach tighten, an old reflex, like flinching at a sound you can't unhear. I hadn't spoken to him in almost a year, not since he accused me of forgetting where I came from. The message was short. Your brother and his wife are moving back in. We'll need your help again with the kids. You're still good with children, right? Still good with children. My lips curled into something between a laugh and a sigh. After all these years, degrees, promotions, and a company under my name, to him, I was still the babysitter. For a second, I felt that old pull, the guilt, the duty, the way I used to drop everything to help them. But this time, something in me didn't move. I set the phone down, my reflection faint in the glass window. No, not this time. Because I'd spent too many years raising everyone else, and somewhere in the chaos, I'd learned to raise myself. I was 16 the first time my father called me the babysitter. It wasn't a nickname. It was an order dressed up as affection. My mom had just started working double shifts at the hospital, and Dad said someone responsible had to keep the house in order. Out of 3 kids, I was the oldest, the dependable one, the quiet one, the one who didn't argue. So I learned to pack lunches, braid my sister's hair, sign permission slips, and heat up dinner before anyone else got home. My friends went to football games and late-night movies. I stayed home, folding laundry while my baby brother screamed from the next room. I told myself it was temporary, that someday they'd see how much I did. But years passed and nothing changed. One night, during my senior year, I came home late from a college prep meeting. My hands still smelled like the cheap pizza they'd served. Dad was in his recliner, TV glowing against his face. Where were you? He barked. I told you, Dad, the scholarship meeting. They think I have a shot at. He cut me off. Your brother didn't eat until 9. You were supposed to make dinner. Something in me cracked. I'm not their mother, I shouted. The words hung in the air like a sin. My mom froze by the sink. My father stood up slowly, voice low and dangerous. If you want to live here, he said, you live by this family's needs, not your own. I remember my hands shaking as I walked to my room. The walls felt closer than ever. I packed my school bag with trembling fingers, not all my things, just enough. Before I left, I opened my dresser drawer and found the small silver locket Grandma Ruth had given me before she passed, the one with the engraving inside. Be more than they see. That night, I slipped it around my neck and walked out, barefoot, angry, terrified. The cold air hit me like a slap, but for the first time it was mine. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay where I wasn't seen. The first night away from home, I slept on my friend Jenna's couch, wrapped in an old blanket that smelled like lavender detergent and stale popcorn. I remember lying there, staring at the ceiling fan spinning shadows across the wall, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. No one called. Not my mom. Not my dad. The silence was the answer I didn't want, but maybe needed. For months, I worked every odd job I could find, tutoring, babysitting, cleaning apartments. The irony wasn't lost on me. Even after leaving, I was still taking care of other people's kids. But this time they paid me. This time I had control. Then came the real break. I got a part-time position at a local daycare center, minimum wage, but it came with something I hadn't felt in years: belonging. The manager, a woman named Denise Walker, saw something in me. She said I had a natural calm, the kind kids trusted. Denise became my quiet mentor. She'd stay late with me after hours, teaching me paperwork, payroll, safety training, things no one else bothered to explain. You've got the instincts, she told me one evening as we locked up. Now get the credentials. So I did. I studied at night, enrolled in early childhood education courses, and earned certifications one by one. It wasn't glamorous, Ramen dinners, thrift store clothes, crying over test results, but each small victory stitched together the woman I was becoming. By 24, I was managing that same daycare. By 27, I was running 2 branches. And by 29, I'd saved enough to open my own Little Steps Learning Center, painted in warm yellows and soft greens, filled with laughter instead of shouting. People often assume success feels loud, confetti, applause, flashing lights. But for me, it felt quiet, like finally exhaling after holding your breath for years. I never told my family. When my mom texted to check in, I kept my replies polite and brief. Yeah, doing okay. Works fine. Nothing new, really. Because the truth was too big, too sacred to hand back to people who'd once told me I didn't deserve space to dream. On weekends, I'd drive past my old neighborhood. Sometimes, I'd see my dad outside mowing the lawn, my brother's kids playing in the yard. I'd keep driving. They didn't see me, and for a long time that was exactly how I wanted it. But success has a strange way of catching up with the past. A magazine feature about women-owned businesses. A local news segment about childcare innovation. And suddenly, people started asking questions. That's when the first call came from home, my mom's voice trembling through the line, saying Dad wasn't doing well, that things were falling apart. I remember staring at my reflection in the darkened office window, the city lights blinking behind me. After all these years of being the family's babysitter, they still needed saving. But this time, they have to meet the woman I'd become, not the girl they once controlled. It was a Thursday morning when I finally agreed to see them. Mom's voice on the phone had been soft, almost apologetic. Your dad wants to talk, honey. He's not the same anymore. A part of me wanted to hang up. Another part, the old Natalie, who still cared too much, whispered, maybe it's time. When their car pulled up in front of my office, I watched from the window above. Same old family sedan. Same dent on the right side. It looked smaller now, or maybe I'd just grown. I met them in the lobby of Little Steps headquarters, the headquarters I built. The walls were lined with bright murals, smiling faces of children, and framed magazine covers featuring me with headlines like, From Nanny to CEO, the woman behind the next generation of childcare. Mom's eyes widened the moment she stepped in. Dad looked around, confused, as if trying to piece together how his daughter, the one who left with nothing but a backpack and a locket, could possibly belong here. You work here? Mom asked, her voice echoing off the glass walls. I smiled gently. I don't just work here. I built this place. The silence that followed could have cracked glass. Dad's brows furrowed. You mean you own this? I nodded. 3 centers, actually. And we just opened a foundation for underprivileged kids last month. For a man who never ran out of words, my father suddenly had none. He glanced at the gold nameplate on my desk. Natalie Brooks, founder and executive director. I could see the disbelief flicker across his face. For years, he'd measured worth by control, by who obeyed, who stayed small. And here I was, standing in front of him, not small anymore. Mom brushed her fingers over a framed photo of my staff. I had no idea. I softened. You weren't supposed to. I wanted something that was mine, something no one could take credit for or command. Dad's eyes dropped to the floor. You didn't have to shut us out, Natalie. My heart twisted at the sound of my name from his voice, softer, almost fragile. With all due respect, Dad, I said quietly, I didn't shut you out. You closed the door first. He looked up, meeting my gaze for the first time in years. The old defensiveness flickered in his eyes, then faded. I thought I was protecting the family, he muttered. No, I said. You were protecting control. The words hung in the air, sharp but true. I walked him through the main corridor, the playrooms, the art corners, the reading zones. Children's laughter spilled through the air, light and pure. This, I said softly, is what love looks like when it isn't forced. He didn't answer. But I saw something shift, maybe pride, maybe guilt, maybe both. When we reached my office again, he hesitated before speaking. You did all this without us? Yes, I said. But I didn't do it against you. I did it for me. Mom dabbed her eyes. You've become someone incredible, Natalie. I smiled faintly.
No.
I just became who I was supposed to be all along. For a moment, we just stood there, the air thick with years of unspoken things. Then Dad stepped closer, voice low. Maybe we didn't deserve you back then. And for the first time since I was 16, I believed he meant it. We sat in my office after the tour, the same room that once only existed in my imagination. My father stared out the window, watching the city hum below us. Mom sat across from me, wringing her hands like she was holding all the words she'd never said. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. We've hit some hard times, he began. Your brother lost his job. The mortgage, it's been tough. We might lose the house. There it was, the ask. Old Natalie would have rushed to fix it, to volunteer, to save everyone again. But that girl was gone. I leaned back, steadying my voice. So, you came here for help? He nodded once, eyes heavy. We thought maybe you could lend something. Just until things settle. I took a slow breath. The air felt thick, but not suffocating anymore. I'll help, I said. But on one condition. Dad looked up sharply. Condition? Yes, I said, voice firm but kind. Actually, a few. I stood and walked to the bookshelf behind my desk, tracing the spine of an old business law book, the same one Denise had given me when I opened my first center. When I left home, you told me I had to live by your rules if I wanted a roof over my head, I said. Now, if I'm going to help, you'll live by mine. Mom swallowed hard. What do you mean? I turned to face them. First, no more guilt. No more making me feel like I owe you for being born. I'll help, but this isn't a transaction. It's a gift, and it's the last one that comes without strings. Dad opened his mouth to speak, but I continued. Second, my brother gets a job.
Any job. He contributes something.
You raised us to depend on me, and that ends now. Mom nodded slowly, tears glistening. That's fair. And third, I said quietly, you start talking to me like a daughter, not a resource. If we rebuild anything, it has to be real. For a moment, the room was silent except for the faint ticking of the wall clock. Dad's jaw tightened, pride wrestling with humility. Then finally he nodded. You have my word. I smiled faintly. Good. Then we'll move forward. I opened a drawer and slid a check across the desk, enough to help them, but not to erase their responsibility. This should cover the mortgage. The rest, that's on you. He picked it up, staring at it for a long time before speaking. You really became someone, Natalie. I met his eyes. No, Dad. I just stopped being everyone else's babysitter. He gave a small, shaky laugh, the first honest one I'd heard from him in years. You've got your mother's heart, he said quietly. And my stubbornness. Maybe, I said, softening. But I finally learned how to use both the right way. The moment wasn't perfect. There were still scars, unspoken apologies, and years to mend. But for the first time, I didn't feel small sitting across from him. For the first time, I wasn't the one seeking approval, I was the one setting the terms. And it felt right. It's strange how healing doesn't arrive with a grand finale, no fireworks, no music swelling in the background. Sometimes it comes quietly, in small, almost invisible ways. A week after that meeting, my father called, not to ask for money, but just to say thank you. His voice was gentler this time, slower. We're doing better, he said. Your brother found work at the auto shop. I smiled. That's good, Dad. Really good. And for the first time, the silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. Mom started visiting the daycare sometimes, bringing homemade cookies for the staff. She'd sit in the play area, watching the kids paint and say softly, "You built something beautiful, Nat." Every time she said it, I felt another old wound close just a little more. One evening, I stayed late at the center, walking through the empty classrooms. The lights were dim, the toys neatly arranged, the air carrying the faint scent of crayons and lavender cleaner. On my desk sat the old silver locket, Grandma Ruth's, the one I'd worn the night I left home. I picked it up, thumb brushing over the faded engraving. Be more than they see. For years, I thought those words meant proving everyone wrong. But standing there, in the quiet hum of everything I'd built, I realized it was never about them. It was about me seeing myself fully, finally. Outside, the city shimmered against the glass, a mosaic of second chances and silent triumphs. I caught my reflection, older, steadier, but still that same girl who once packed a backpack and walked into the dark. I whispered to her, softly, "You made it. You really did." As I locked up for the night, I felt something lift, the last piece of that old weight I'd carried for years. And as the door clicked shut behind me, my voiceover line came easily, like it had been waiting all along. After years of being called the family's babysitter, I finally learned how to take care of myself.